Hey everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Simply Divine podcast. Uh, this is going to be a very short episode. It might be the shortest episode that this podcast ever gets. I'm going to try and upload an episode at least once a week. There may be guests in the future. For the first episode, it's just going to be me. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. The reason I wanted to make this podcast is because I've enjoyed making YouTube videos in the past. Um, I back whenever I played Honkai Star Rail for YouTube, I uploaded about 400 videos in about a year. That's like more than a video a day. It was it was fun because I felt passionate enough about the game and I was enjoying my time making content mostly about the game. I think making the videos actually kept me playing the game longer than I definitely normally would have if I wasn't creating content about it. I just enjoyed talking about the game and helping people and going through experiences and reacting and whatnot. Um, Also, I work a full time job, sometimes more than full time, usually over 40 hours a week. I work at UPS. It's rough, and I use podcasts to get me through the day. The really good thing about the Path of Exile space, which I was going to make a joke about, I'm making this podcast because the Path of Exile space doesn't have enough podcasts. Um, it has a ton of podcasts. And they really help get me through the day, whether it's Zizarin's Blastcast, the Max Roll podcast, Talkative Try. Really like pretty much everything the Talkative Try does. I like a lot of these guys a lot. Darth Microtransaction, I believe he does. I don't know if he has a podcast. I could be getting this wrong, but he's a guest all the time on other people's podcasts. Um, and it's always a good conversation. There's so many other content creators that I'm not going to list every single one of them who have inspired me to do this. There's Blazeworks TV, for sure. Um, I'm sure I'm forgetting a few people. I listen to pretty much every Path of Exile podcast that's out there. And just today at work, I listened to like four. So I just want to be a part of that space, and I care enough about the game, and I'm passionate enough about the game that it has inspired me to come back to YouTube and start doing more things. Um, so I have a few topics that I have written down that were kind of things that I was going to separate into multiple different videos. I might still do it if I have the time on my hands. But for now, I'm just gonna yap about everything that I've been writing down. It hasn't been a lot. It's mostly things that, like, whenever I have a gripe with the game, I will write it down, whether it's small or big. That's what I've been remembering to write down. The reality is, even though I'm going to go over a few things that I don't like, there are way more things that I do like. I've really been enjoying Path of Exile. Sorry, I've really been enjoying this league. I like Abyss. Abyss is my favorite mechanic in all of Path of Exile 1, and it's only better here in Path of Exile 2. I think they really took the mechanic and just leveled it up a bit. Also, the inclusion of basically the unveil mechanic, basically adding it to Abyss. So it's basically two league mechanics in one, and they're both really good league mechanics from Path of Exile 1. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they just took it and made it better anyway. So that has been a lot of fun. All the changes that they've made. I'm not going to talk about balance. I'm not a big balance guy. I know it's very rough. I play Lightning Arrow Deadeye. I decided that before I even knew it was going to be astronomically broken because I've always wanted to do it in PoE 1. But every time I play PoE 1, Pox really reels me in and just beckons me to play Righteous Fire. I don't know what's happened. Of like, now I haven't played a ton of PoE 1, but the three leagues that I have played in, I played Righteous Fire in all three of them. Even though I was going into the one really hoping to play Lightning Arrow, I was like, you know what? It's a Righteous Fire kind of league, I think, for the third time in a row. Um, I don't know. I hope they bring Righteous Fire to Path of Exile too. They can iterate on it, make it more interactive, things like that. Give it the PoE2 glow up. That would be perfectly fine by me. I just hope it's added to the game because I find it a lot of fun. I got the game and I got in the early access when the game first came out. So 0.1. 0.1 I had a lot of fun with until I got to Cruel Act 1. The thought of just doing the same three acts over again is where I drew the line. As in, I just didn't play. And because they didn't fix it in 0.2, I didn't come back for 0.2. But this league, I have gone from probably, I think I was like 40 hours to, I think, I might not have even been 40 hours. I might have been like 25, 30 hours. And now I think I'm cresting like 300. So I'm not super hardcore. Obviously, I play a ton whenever I can, but uh, it's pretty rough with, there was a long time. I'm mostly working 6 days a week, more than 10 hours a day. So that's kind of rough. I'm hitting like the 60-hour mark, which is like the maximum for the Department of Transportation. I'm like right under the 60-hour mark, like every week since the league launch happened, except for last week. Except for this week. Sorry. This week I got to like grind a ton, and it was just only like fanning the flames of like, I want to talk about this on YouTube. I want to start the podcast that I've been thinking about for like 2 weeks. So here it is. Um, so yeah, let's talk, because we just talked about the cruel acts. Let's talk about how awesome it is that they removed them, added Act 4 and 2 preludes. Act 4 was very, very good. Unfortunately for me, I don't think I got the complete experience because Act 4 is whenever I kind of started super blasting. Most of the bosses, Act 4 and beyond, were a victim to the fact that I was Lightning Arrow Deadeye. They were just victims. Yama the White, the monkey that people have a lot of problems with, I just deleted him before he even did any mechanics, and that was pretty much the same for almost every boss, Act 4 and beyond. So, with that being said, take it with a grain of salt. I still really enjoy the areas of Act 4, the zones, the maps, everything like that. Something I want to talk about is that the maps, especially in Act 2 and 3, are very, very large. And I honestly, and also people say 4, but I think I was so strong by the time we got to Act 4, me and my friend who were playing the campaign together, that we were I was kind of just blasting through everything. And it felt a lot faster. But whenever I couldn't instantly blast through everything, and we were in Act 2 and Act 3, and the maps were super long, it was very, very frustrating. I felt like we were spending so much time in areas. Um, One of the reasons why I think that the areas actually, not only do they need shortened, that would be the most ideal thing, but I think that resetting in 15 minutes, automatically resetting a map's like Waystones and Fog of War in 15 minutes, if you're going to keep these big maps in Path of Exile 2, it just needs to be longer. 20 minutes at least. Half an hour would be ideal because if you wanted to reset a zone, you could just do it manually. Like, nobody wants the zone to reset unless they're telling it to reset. Right? So there were multiple times during the campaign, even as a duo, where one of us would have to go back to a previous area that we were in, step in the area for just a second, like teleport in, and then teleport back to where we were actually going to reset the 15-minute timer so that the area wouldn't reset, because we knew we're taking forever in this area because these maps are so big. And also, if that area resets, like the area that we'll have to backtrack to resets, we're going to have to re-explore the whole thing again, and it's just going to be it's going to add to the annoying frustration. So that is one of the pieces of criticism that I definitely have. I think that the maps are too big in general. I think they need to be smaller, and I think that they need to reset preferably at like maybe 20 minutes. Just increase the timer by 5 minutes. That'd be fine with me. Because there was a time where on my solo character, there were multiple times where I would go back to an area, backtrack, and the area did reset because I didn't remember to go back. It was very, very frustrating. Anyway, um, yeah, the campaign skip. Let's talk about the campaign skip idea. The best one that I've seen floating around, and it's kind of the I whenever I first saw people were talking about this, it's kind of the same idea that I thought of, where whenever you go into a new zone, all of the bonuses that the side bosses give you are just given to you, right? You can still fight them for their loot or their XP or farm the zone for XP if you want to take that time, right? But I think that removing the need to go fight them would be very nice. Like if you could just, the moment you step into Act 2, you get a bunch of passive skill points, you get, actually, I don't remember the boss rewards from Act 2 that well. So let's talk about Act 1. You enter Act 1, you get a few passive skill points, is it like 4? I don't know, from side bosses, and you get the 10% cold resistance from defeating the witch that you normally would in one of the first areas of Act 1. So you don't have to look for her and go fight her. That's completely optional. If you want the loot, you can go fight her, get the loot, whatever. But it's completely optional. You can just look for the door and go. Of course, people have said, but people will do this. They'll start a new character. They will skip these bosses, just look for doors, door hunt, and then they'll be underleveled, and then they'll get killed, and then they'll complain. That is the most skill issue thing I've ever heard in my life. Just because you get the rewards automatically doesn't mean that you should or have to skip them. You can still, like I said, look for the bosses, find them, kill them for loot, whatever. And in fact, you'll be stronger right at the start of an act, and you'll be stronger throughout the act because you'll just step in the door, get the resistances, or get the spirit gems, whatever, and get the passive skill points. So you'll step into a zone and just get stronger right off the bat. And then you'll be able to do the acts faster due to that being the case. So that's my opinion for what the best possible outcome of the campaign skip, if the devs bend on that. I don't want them to break. I definitely don't want I don't think they'd ever make it a microtransaction, but just, I don't want any kind of feature that just says, nope, I don't have to do any of the campaign. Ba-boom. I think that'd be stupid. I think just ways to basically add global progression to our accounts, like account progression through each of the leagues would be nice. Like you go through it on one character, and then whenever you go through it on a second character, it's a bit faster. You don't have to hunt for everything. You don't have to look for all the Easter eggs. You're good. I did see an idea where even though the fog of war is up, the checkpoints are unlocked. I definitely dislike this one a lot more because you don't actually have to explore the zone. You would just go into a zone, look at the waypoints, tap on one, and usually waypoints are in front of doors to places. So you would step into a zone, open your map, click a waypoint, boom, you're in front of the door to whatever area, the next area they need to go to, instantly in the door. You could say that like that's, people would do that and then they'd be under leveled, and it's like you said, it's a skill issue because then they would be very weak. That is true, but I just don't think like the checkpoint teleporting meta for like second characters should ever be a thing. I think that would look very dumb to somebody watching like a stream of somebody who is currently playing on a second character, or they're just teleporting into or they're just stepping into zones using teleporters, and then they in like 5 minutes they're at the boss of the it wouldn't be 5 minutes, but in like 20 minutes they're at the boss of an act after doing basically nothing. Yeah, that'd be something. That would be not good. I think that's the not good outcome. Now that we talked about campaign skipping, my hope that they decrease maps. Maps resetting in 15 minutes, in my opinion, is too fast. Not a lot of people are talking about that. Let's talk about, this was a video that I was going to make. Let's talk about the new trade system. I genuinely think that this is the best feature of the patch. Act 4 is great. The preludes are great. Abyssal is great. This, that, and the other thing is great. All the additions to the game are amazing. I can't think of anything content-wise that was not amazing. Everything that the size of this patch is just insane. And if they can keep this level of consistency, and next patch give us like either like 2 classes or a class and an act, or 1 class but like a really crazy league, all the new crafting is in the game, like all of the stuff is amazing, right? But I can say this is amazing and that is amazing, and I will have a video or talk about it on the episode 2 of the Simply Divine podcast, about everything that I find good. But I just think that there's more to talk about. There's more girth in the things that we're talking about, more meat and potatoes when we're talking about things that could be further improved. So that's why we're going to go into this. Trade polish that could further improve the system. This was a video that I was going to make individually. I still might make it. I think adding a clear filters button to stop auto clearing filters when you buy an item would be very good. You know, whenever you click purchase on an item and you teleport to someone's stash, and maybe you rethink your decision, or maybe you want to buy like 50 heavy belts, you would have to type heavy belt, change the rarity to normal, and click the search button 50 times. Why is it that I have to do that? Just give me the clear filters button, right? And then make it so that filters do not clear automatically. I think you should be able to search heavy belt, click on normal, and then just click purchase, go to their stash, pull it out, or go to their Ang, pull it out, and then go to, press the / again, click purchase, go to someone else's hideout. Just do that over and over again. It would really make the system even more fluid, and it is already such a beautiful, amazing system. I think that, and this was an idea that I took straight from Ziz. Ziz had a really good point. He said this, I can't remember when, it was like a week into the league. He wished that you could have the ability to control click an item to link its mods into the filters. Do some kind of hotkey to link an item mods into the filters. So let's say I had a bow with +2 projectiles and 100 and tier 1 fizz %, right? Let's say I control click or whatever whenever I have the market open, and then it basically just slotted the modifiers into the search function or into the filters function, and it put like the item as like bow. So now it's looking, now it just looks at the whole marketplace at bows with physical damage and adds to projectiles. And you can do this blank. I would prefer this at least, like you don't have to do the whole numbers thing like super specific. You can just link the physical damage in general and the adds to projectiles, adds like number of projectiles to the filter, and then let us plug in our own values, whatever. That would be fine. That'd be the best possible thing at basic that I would like to see. Just because it would help us get to a place where you rely a little less on third-party programs. Yes, third-party is definitely faster. I use one of them to the price checker, and all I have to do is hold Alt, press E while hovering over an item, and a window will come up with all the things that, with all the prices of it. You could at least add that to a lesser extent into the actual base game for casual players who don't want to download any third-party programs, but still want to look up the value of their items. a little quicker than what is currently available. Where you have to be like, if you're whatever. You know what I'm saying. I'm not going to go further into that and ramble on about that. That would be nice. Those are two things that I think could really improve the system. It's already such an amazing, such a beautiful system. This is just what I would suggest, what I hope we see in the future to make it better. There was another thing I was thinking about at work the other day. One more thing to polish the trade system, but I can't remember it right now, and I didn't write it down, unfortunately. If I make a video about it, I will include it in there. Let's talk about ascendancies in PoE2. This is something that came up in 0.1, of course. This was a big topic when the game first came out. It's died down a little bit because it's just been a topic that's been talked to death, but I wasn't around making content, at least, during 0.1. Ascendancies, you should be able to do 4 instances of the Trial of Chaos or 4 instances of the Trial of Sekima for all your ascendancies, in my opinion. I don't think, if you vehemently dislike the Trial of Sekima, but you really like the Trial of Chaos, why not just let us do both? Like, you can do the Trial of Chaos with 4 rooms, and then with 6 rooms, and then with 8 rooms, and then the final would be with 10 rooms that you have to get like the three pieces of the relic for. That would be fine with me. That'd be fine. That's all for ascendancy trials. Or you could do in the Trial of Sekimas, you could be, the one room where you go through the tree once, and then 2, 3, 4 areas, and that is your 8 ascendancy points there now. Just from the Trial of Sekimas. You don't have to do the Trial of Chaos if you don't want to. If you prefer Sekima, just do all 4 of your ascendancy trials in the Sekima. That's just my opinion. That was a little bit of a rapid fire one. We're going to move on after that. So I have like 3 gripes that are kind of just random that I really want to see change in 0.4. So not having Ange until Act 4, not being able to do the asynchronous trading until Act 4 is so sad. People were talking about it a lot at the start of the league. It's kind of died down because, we're so far into the league, so nobody's really talking about that specific topic right now. But I just wanted to bring it up again, bring it back to light, and let, my opinion be known, and a lot of other people's opinion be known, that that is still a problem. Because if you're playing Trade League, then you play Trade League for a reason. You want to trade. I think that maybe we should meet her in Act 1, and then maybe we don't see her till Act 4, but we've in the actual campaign. But we have her, we make friends with her and we talk with her. She maybe tells us about King's March in Act 1, and then the whole story, of course, in Act 1 through 3 is building up to whenever we see her again in King's March. But she's always at our hideout from there on out. I think we should be able to get our hideout and our Ange. If not the hideout, then just have Ange in the Clearfell encampment in Act 1. And then we just go back to the Clearfell encampment to talk to her to put things on the market or get our currency that, we got when things were sold. A lot of people, including myself, had many things that they dropped for lower level people, and they wanted to sell it because it wasn't good for them to other lower level people. The problem is when you're low level and you're not, at least in Act 4, when you're in Acts 1 through 3, you can't sell using the asynchronous trading, and you can't buy using the asynchronous trading. So you're basically forced into solo self-found for some unknown reason for the first 3 acts, even though you chose to play Trade League. You didn't click solo self-found. In my opinion, that just needs to change. I think it's very simple. I think it's a simple fix that would help a lot of people. And it would get trading in the early levels with like lower tier items, up and going. Because I found, I already said, I found some really good items that weren't specifically for my build, but were like, oh wait, this would be a really good level wand for a level 20 sorcerer. Whoops. Or a level 20 witch. Sorry. Whoops. My bad. If you wait until you're in Act 4 to sell it, nobody's going to buy it because they're not level 20. Unless they're buying it for another character to twink on them as their main character. Which I guess happens, right? But still annoying that as a really low level, you have to keep things that are good for low levels in your stash until Act 4, and then you're selling it after you've already kind of passed that bridge long ago. And it would be better to just farm the end game and get better stuff to sell for higher prices. That's just my opinion. Multiplayer in Endgame is scuffed. Multiplayer in Path of Exile 1 is very, very seamless. I've never experienced this problem. I've never had this gripe with the game. In PoE 1, me and my friend play every league together. Not every league. Every league that either of us play, usually, we play together. And it's never been a problem. When we tried to play duo in Path of Exile 2, there were a few bugs here and there in the campaign. That's to be expected, right? But after campaign, whenever you get into maps, I joined him for some maps, and I swear the bosses didn't have double the health because there's double the players. They had like 20 times the health. And I've seen videos of other people doing it where if you're in a duo or just playing with another player, or other players, and you're doing anything in the end game, you can be both hitting the same boss for so long, and it's like tickling the boss. But you then go into a map solo, which is what I did. I was like, I don't know, this is kind of miserable. Like, I'm getting one shot by everything all of a sudden, and everything's taking a million years to kill. And then I queue up, I go into a map by myself that I also juice up, like tier 15, tier 16 with some delirium juice on it. And all of a sudden, I'm just one-shotting everything. And I'm not saying I want people to one-shot everything, but it's insane when you add one other person to your party. You're tickling a boss. When you're alone, you're blasting. And it just ends with a world where it feels like I just shot my character in both of my kneecaps just because I wanted to play with my friend, which is very unfortunate. It feels like I lost an unbelievable amount of power out of nowhere for seemingly no reason, just for wanting to play with my friend. On top of that, an arguably bigger problem with the end game of Path of Exile 2 is in Path of Exile 1, when you do maps with a friend, you complete them. If either of you don't have the Atlas point for that specific map, you both get it. In Path of Exile 2, if you're doing a map with a deadly boss, both of you you don't get the 2 boss points. Only the owner of the map gets the 2 Atlas map boss points. So what are we saying here? What are we doing? It's like that for every mechanic, right? It's very unfortunate. You just can't gain Atlas points, like Atlas passive skill tree points, when you're playing with another player. Only the owner of, the map that you're doing gets the points. It's very annoying. What else was I going to say? Another big one. Oh, this one is slightly less big. I don't know how they could ever fix it. It's just going to have to be something that is dealt with. I believe I don't know. I don't know if they have any strategies in mind to fix it. Of course, 0.4 is going to be the big end game update. We already got some changes to towers and whatnot. That's not what I'm talking about. If you're duoing, if you're bringing in a friend, and let's say we're doing my maps, I invite him to my party, and we're gonna run a few maps on my Atlas. Because it's an infinite Atlas, we're checking off nodes on my Atlas. We're moving across the map. I'm getting closer to my citadels because we're moving out and we're exploring in a direction. I'm getting closer to my citadels I'm exploring more maps. We're doing towers and it's giving me vision of more area. I feel like I'm definitely progressing. If we go do his maps, or, let's just say for him, who's playing with me, we stopped playing. We played maybe like, let's just say for example, we just duo blasted for 5 hours. I have 5 hours of progress moving towards atlases, or moving towards citadels, finding more deadly map boss areas, getting towers and getting overlaps and things like that, which of course, like I said, is done in 0.3.1, which I might make a video talking about. I already did make a video going over the changes, but next episode might be a video of me actually going over the changes, how they landed, and how the game feels. But I made a bunch of progress on my atlas. I moved around, I explored, like I said, I found some citadels, I got closer to my end game. He then goes back to his, thing after we've played for 5 hours. And after 5 hours of blasting the game, he looks at his atlas and it's naked, right? It's just, he didn't make any progress. He didn't move towards, any citadels. He didn't get closer to any citadels. He didn't get closer to being able to fight the Arbiter of Ash. And even if he did, funny enough, even if he did fight the Arbiter of Ash with me, he wouldn't get Atlas points. Weird. So even if, it's just very frustrating. It seems like there's a lot of, I literally don't know how to explain it except for like cock and ball torture that comes with playing PoE2 with a friend in the late game, like blasting maps and mapping together. That just isn't present in PoE1. PoE1 has already figured this out. It's very, very seamless. You play with friends. There's no bugs. There's no bugged encounters. There's you both gain points on your atlas. There's no infinite atlas. You didn't both lose. One of you didn't lose progress moving towards like the late game of all that, of like endgame bosses and things like that. You both made equal progress and you both just had fun playing together. Easy. But yeah, that was just a rant that I had to go on. I feel like that's everything that I've written down. I don't want these episodes to go too long. I think an hour is probably the maximum I'll ever do. I like the length of the Talkative Try podcasts. Although when I'm working, like I said, because I watch podcasts while I'm at work, the long ones can be really nice because they kill a lot of time. But I think just in terms of like a good conversation that is easily digestible in podcast form, I don't think you should have to set like 3 hours aside. I think like an hour is pretty good, especially if that would be like the only thing you're doing, which would be crazy. But yeah, this was the first episode of the Simply Divine podcast. I know I said a lot of ums and ahs. I know I stumbled on my words quite a bit. There we go. It wasn't perfect, and it won't be perfect for a long time. And hopefully, as I keep talking and making episodes of this podcast, it'll just get better. It's not only going to be alone. It's not only going to be solo. I'm going to have guests on the best I can. Hopefully my channel grows and I can have all kinds of different guests on, but I'll definitely have my friend on. And yeah, that is all that I have to say. I'm really enjoying 0.3. I know this episode, like I said, was a lot of complaints and gripes, but just know that like there is way more that I enjoy. And I won't not talk about it. I'm definitely going to talk about it. It's just, I feel like there's more detail I can get into and explain my thoughts better when it's not just, well, I like this, but instead it's like, well, here's the problem and here's how I think we could fix it. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting. Let me know down below what your favorite and least favorite thing about the patch is, and if I said anything you can relate to or agree with. Peace. Or disagree with. Let me know if there's anything I said that you disagree with.